This is a great honor for every fan of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm honored to be in the NFL.
What can I say? Mamba out.
Right, what is up, everyone? Welcome to your Friday edition of the afternoon show. It is February 21st of 2025. Once again, your Friday edition, getting you into the weekend. But I can't do the show by myself. It'd be boring that way. Just an hour of me blabbering on about God knows what. I can't do that. I can't do that for myself. I can't do that for you, the people. I gotta bring up my boy, my co-founder here on ESCN, Jay McLovin. Jay, what is going on, my brother?
I'll tell you what's going. Warm weather, Logan. I made it through the wintry 20s, and now I'm back into warm weather. Life is good now.
Give us some
Chris and Tony, because they're out there in that like single digits. But for us, Logan, it's good.
Jay, it's cold down here, man. It's like 20 something down here right now in Georgia. It's cold today. It's going to get warm. It's going to get warmer here, but it's a chilly Friday today, all in all. But before we get into it, guys, if you enjoy the episode, please like, follow, share, and subscribe. We go live each and every Monday through Friday here on this channel, 2 o'clock Eastern, of course. But we have a litany of other channels you can check out, other networks as well. Just click our link tree in the description, and you can see all of those and a whole lot more. All right, well, Jay, let's rip off that Band-Aid, right? That Band-Aid with some maple syrup on it, some Canadian Grey Goose, and whatever the hell else you want to call it. We lost last night, Jay. The USA lost in the championship game of the Four Nations to those damn Canadians. Tough loss, though. We lost in overtime, but still a loss is a loss. And what were your thoughts on that? Did you watch any of the game, or did you just kind of watch the highlights afterwards?
Unfortunately, I watched the highlights. I had company over, so I didn't get to watch what I wanted to watch. But, I'll tell you, a couple of takeaways I took away from that game. Obviously, one being the game went to overtime, so it wasn't like it was a blowout loss for the U.S., right? We are now 4 out of 5. We've lost 4 out of 5 to Canada, so I was really hoping we can make that 3 out of 5. But, yeah, it didn't happen, Logan. But I got to tell you, man, I felt like even like Team USA said how they felt after that loss. So they feel like they can compete now with Canada. So I do expect, when the Olympics come, because we got, as you know, there's a lot of injuries on Team USA side, not to make excuses for them, because even with the injuries, they still took them to overtime. So let that marinate for a minute. Had we had a full squad, healthy, could we have then taken that game? But at the end of the day, we still got the Olympics coming up. And, I feel like we're going to dominate in the Olympics. I really do, Logan.
I feel good about it. Like I said, it's unfortunate we lost. Obviously, some guys were banged up heading into the game. That's just how it is sometimes. Sometimes you got injuries to your star players and whatnot. And like I said, it hurts that we lost the game, but I'm glad it was a tough loss at least, right? It was 3-2, lost in overtime, so it took them a little bit of extra time for them to beat us. But it's Connor McDavid, Jay. He's one of the best players in the league, has been for quite some time, and he's the one who ultimately got that game-winning shot against us to end overtime, around 8 minutes or so into it. But also, Jay, I just want to say, we talked about it, last week, a little bit earlier, or a little bit more about it. But just with how not really just this game with the U.S., obviously, but I feel like just as a tournament in general, this overshadowed, I think, the All-Star break for the NBA by far. We saw that the NBA had their, I believe, second lowest rating for the All-Star break since, I think, the least amount of viewers was in 2023. This was, I believe, second. I could be wrong on that. But, it felt like, and they haven't released the numbers yet for this, not that I've seen. But, I feel like obviously with hockey, I think being more world-renowned, or maybe, more watched in other global markets, that this really did kind of overshadow a lot of the NBA.
Yeah, I think so. And, it's not too hard to overshadow the NBA. Look, when Kevin Hart is like 80% of the broadcast and like 20 to 30% is actually them playing, come on, what are we doing, Logan? What are we really doing? Is this really where we're going in sports franchises? Because, look, you got flag football, you got Madden games over NFL. Is this where all of our All-Star games are going, away from the actual sport itself and more basically into sideshows. Is that what our all-stars now are becoming, sideshows?
I mean, it feels like it because I mean, in recent memory, you definitely hear more about we'll just say like the extracurricular activities, right? The all-star or the 3-point contest and the dunk contest more than you would the all-star game. Just because those are, you see those once a year, but for the all-star game, I mean, you can watch games every night practically, with stars, and it's not as big of a deal, I think, too, Jay. And a good point to mention is it meant more, I think, back in hell, even you can go back 20 years ago, even 15 years ago, maybe, because there wasn't social media, right? It was very limited, and you couldn't really, you couldn't go and watch highlights from, Jokic in Denver or Wembanyama in San Antonio or Brunson in New York. You couldn't really see those, aside from either if your team was playing them or if you were on ESPN watching the highlights. But
Right.
now, I mean, we can go and watch highlights from anywhere at any time in 10 seconds flat. So I think that has really kind of put a damper on the All-Star game as a whole. And we'll get back to the hockey in a second, but I just wanted to mention that.
Oh yeah, no, it's again. I'm curious to see where they're going to go with it now. Like, what changes are they going to make to it now? And you got to imagine some of these bigger stars are fading out. The Durants, the Steph
LeBron,
Currys, the LeBrons. I mean, these guys are going to be fading out within the next 10 years. And what are they going to do then? Like, who's the next big star to arise that's going to get any kind of positive attraction? I mean, look, we've gone from having Durant versus James, and, and now we've got Shaq versus Chuck. I mean, I don't know what to say about it, man. It just, to me, it's just all of it's just disappointing. Honestly, it really is. I will say this, McClung, even though you were a G League guy, I felt that jump over the car, was pretty dope.
That was sweet. That was sweet.
I mean, because even the dunk contest has been very bland, unorganized, just not very good competition. Logan, that.
And we're not saying the actual dunks. I think the dunks are still really good and high quality. There's no question about that. But the name value's not there. I believe who was it? Was it Frankie or was it Chris last week that had mentioned earlier in the week, rather maybe, that had mentioned bring in like professional dunkers, but guys who just make viral videos or are on some organization that just do that for a living. I feel like that would be pretty neat, right? And you could do like, I don't know, like a team of 3 versus a team of 3 NBA guys, and just kind of tally that up.
Well, think about it. I mean, the dunk contest is the big contest of All-Star Weekend, but actually, the actual game itself, right? So that's where all your hoopla is. But then you look at baseball, where baseball's hoopla is obviously is in the home run derby, and you always got stars that play the home run derby in baseball, but you get the B league of people in the NBA. I mean, I just, it just to me, it does nothing for the actual sport itself.
I think the thing too is that I feel like with MLB it's a little bit easier perhaps because a lot of the guys who hit the most home runs for the most part they're in the home run derby. I mean not all of them obviously, but a lot of them tend to opt in because I mean it's just essentially batting practice for the most part. But for the NBA, you can't really base that on like who has the most dunks because it's just going to be a bunch of centers basically to throw to the rim. So I mean, it's just tough, and I feel like with the NBA more so than any other sport, especially right now, there's just a big stigma around getting hurt and getting injured and everything. I mean that's not helping the sport. It's been like that for probably 10 years or so now. And I think it's starting you're really starting to see the unfortunate effects on it in both, ratings as well as play.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. And, that's the thing too. Since we're talking about ratings and things like that. I was looking at what that Four Nations hockey did, and I think
what we got.
They set betting history out there. I mean, everybody and their mother was betting on that game. And I mean, they set big time records. Even in the betting world, that game set big time records. I don't know if
Yeah.
basketball's gotten that close or baseball's gotten that close in betting, but it seems like the NHL has really topped. That's one of the areas they topped themselves is in that betting category.
Yeah, I see here just on ESPN, it's saying that BetMGM, DraftKings, and FanDuel reported that the championship game was their most bet hockey event of all time by total tickets. DraftKings added that it also attained the highest handle on any hockey event ever. And Caesars and ESPN Bet said that the game fell just a little bit short of their records held by a 2024 Game 7 Stanley Cup game.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will say this, though, Jay. That's a big difference because, I mean, obviously, look, it's the Stanley Cup, it's the big championship. This is like their All-Star break. This isn't even like the World Cup. This isn't even like their, anything like that. So that's telling, for us. And I mean, obviously, we've said before we're not the biggest hockey guys. We don't follow the sport super close. That's our guys over at Royally Quack who do that better than us. But I mean, hell, Jay, I feel like the whole nation was kind of rallying around the U.S. in this tournament.
Yeah, it was a big thing. Everybody wanted the USA to win. I mean, even Donald Trump called it out. A lot of celebrities were calling it out.
Yeah.
And it just didn't come to fruition for them. I mean, you look at that guy McClellan, he had a goal and then you look at for USA, Sanderson and Tkachuk got a goal, and then Bennett round up get the last goal to tie it up for Canada, and then McDavid got the overtime goal. So, I mean, there was a lot of back and forth, but actually, at one point, it was 2-1 in favor of the U.S. before they tied it up. I mean, there was a lot of momentum on the U.S. side of it before we even got to that fourth quarter or third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. They could have held on and won it, but unfortunately, that's just not how the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
but hey, like I said, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I tip my hat to USA. I felt like with all the injuries that they had, they didn't give up. They had a lot of fight in that team, but I think that's what really gives me a lot of hope going into future Nation 4 games or even the 2026 Olympics. I feel like USA is priming themselves for a really good shot.
I feel like also now that that tournament's over and we're getting back to more regular NHL games, I think that hockey is going to get a major bump from this. I think a lot more people are going to tune in to the nationally broadcast games and even go to, if they have a team in their state, they'll I think attendance will be affected in a positive manner.
Man, I was looking at this. He had the goalie for US, Halabach. He had 27 save attempts, and he actually saved it 24 out of 27.
It was just those 3 goals
really
that got
a whole lot of. Honestly, that's really not a lot. I've seen where it's been more than even that. Let's see what Canada had.
I know the U.S. won in terms of hits, though.
Canada had 33 save attempts, and they say 31 out of 33.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, man. That's just how it goes sometimes. But I will say, in terms of hitting, we were still the leaders. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I know we beat Canada in terms of hits given. So at least we were.
We beat the crap out of Canada on the boards and stuff.
At least we were still physical, man. Because I mean, like I said, obviously in that first game earlier in the week, we set the tone in the first 10 seconds. So I
think we actually won most of those fights that they had out there. I don't think we lost the fights.
I don't believe so.
Get that one extra puck in there, Canada, but we still got you in the face.
That's it. All right. We'll transition now from the ice to the gridiron. And Jay, we'll go to your hometown. We'll go to your boys, your Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys. It came out the other day that a future Hall of Famer, you can easily say, offensive lineman Zach Martin, has decided to retire at the young, I guess you could say a little bit younger age of 34. What a career he had, right? 9 Pro Bowls, played in 11 seasons, and relatively healthy. He was a little bit banged up last year, but I mean, other than that, he was pretty much always on the field, Jay. And my favorite stat about him is that he's been named to 7 all first team all pro teams, right?
Yeah.
And he has 7 holding penalties in his career.
Yeah, I mean, very fundamentally sound
Yeah.
part of that offensive line. You know, I mean, he was part of back in the days when they had Tyler Smith and they had Tyrone Smith and they had Frederer and and company. And they've always had, the offensive line has always done a really good job. Now the rookies have cost them some penalties and things like that, but the veteran offensive linemen that we've had have always done a really good job. Not getting those types of penalties. That's probably one of our strong points. But Zach Martin is kind of the last of the old guard of that great front line that we had for a long period. So now pretty much everybody on that damn offensive line is not necessarily a rookie, but very, very inexperienced still. There's I think you got Terrence Steele who has a little bit of experience, but Zach Martin, losing him to retirement, that's a big chunk of experience that's gone, and I'm curious to see how they're going to replace that.
I mean, the draft coming up here in about 2 months, give or take. I mean, I think that's easy. Would you rather go in the draft and get a young guy, Jay, or would you want to go free agency? I feel like free agency because, like I said, I think you need to get a
free agency. Yeah,
you got to have someone.
I think that first round of the draft is not going to be so offensive line driven. I think it's going to be a lot of wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks. Obviously, I mean, I think it'll be a lot of defensive end positions. I don't know how much offensive line is going to play a big factor. But in that first, I'm not talking about just the first round. I mean, you might see some go late in the first round or middle first round, but I don't expect to see a lot.
No, but I will say this one thing though, Jay. I mean, I think a lot of the Cowboys' offense is credited to Zach Martin and how well he did. I mean, obviously, Dak Prescott owes him a million thank yous, I'm sure.
At least.
And also, too, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, for God's sake. I mean, whenever Elliott was a rookie and was young, and Martin was still relatively young as well, right? Zeke got drafted, I think, like 2015, 2016?
Yeah,
so
that's about right.
And, I mean, Martin was still a young player at that point, too. He had just started, I think he was drafted in 2014. So, I mean, they got, he really helped him out in those young years and helped to elevate his career early on. We saw what happened later on, but I mean, that early part, Jay, those, middle to late 2010 teams that the Cowboys had, they were still a very good team, very competitive. I mean, with Prescott, who at that time was younger and still kind of learning the game. You had Des Bryant there, Michael Gallup, the way he's emerged. I mean, and that all goes back to the O-line. You can easily trace it there because without them blocking those defenders, you can't get much done.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm looking at this one mock draft, and even in the first 5 spots, there's no offensive lineman. It's all defensive tackles, defensive Travis. You got obviously Hunter. A lot of people even though he's going to come into the draft as a defensive back, he's still got the number 1 spot. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Actually, Cam Ward goes to Giants. They got, and I see where they got Shedeur Sanders going to the Raiders. But
they have
they got maybe Will Campbell. Offensive lineman out of LSU going at 6, but
okay,
we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out.
But I mean,
the first 10, I think they got this. Well, they got the Saints going offensive lineman at 9, and then at 10, another edge. So you got two offensive linemen in the top 10 in the first round. So I guess,
who they have Dallas drafting? I'm curious now.
At 11, they got San Francisco going tight end, Tyler Warren. And then at 12, you got the Dallas Cowboys going Ashton Genty, running back out of Boise State. So if he lasts to 12, I would be shocked.
Dude, if you guys somehow manage to scoop him up at 12, you got your dog right there, Jay.
Man,
you got it.
Where it's going to come in
if he drops to 12.
Yeah. They're really going to have to beef up that O-line if they want to have him be.
Yeah, I mean, because it don't matter how good your running back is if you don't have an O-line. I mean, it really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the ones who create the space for you to get through and to bob and weave, and are able to make magic happen with your feet. So, I mean, without that good O-line, and obviously you're losing a guy who's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's got 7 first-team All-Pro selections, tied Jay with Randall McDaniel and also John Hanna for the most ever among guards. I mean, guy's definitely a Hall of Famer, no doubt about that.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and literally, and this is just one mock draft. There's a few other mock drafts I've seen this same type of thing, but they got 4 offensive linemen going in the top 20 or the first 26 picks.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I said, that's what I thought. And then Baltimore comes in, it makes it number 5 at pick 27. They take offensive tackle Josh Simmons. So it looks like a lot of those offensive linemen are going to come off towards the end of the first round.
Yeah, because I mean, usually you get more of the skill guys early on. You know what I mean, the playmakers. But I mean, O linemen, man, there ain't no stats on them per se. I mean, they're just kind of there to do the grunt work.
Yeah.
We gotta show some respect, man, to Zach Martin. I know you love watching him play, and definitely.
Man, I do, man. I do love watching him play. I do, and I think if I'm Dallas, I'm gonna sit. I hope they send him off right. I hope they give him at least a nice bobblehead, or I don't know, give him something. Don't let that man just walk out that building and not recognize what he's giving back to that organization.
Jay, forget a bobblehead. That's the least the thing that they can do. Do you think his jersey gets retired?
I don't know. That's a hard one, man, because there's been a lot of good offensive linemen. I would have thought Frederer, our center, would have gotten a jersey up there, and I have yet to see that happen. So they don't have. I mean, even if you look at back in the '90s Cowboys, there's not a whole lot of offensive linemen in that Ring of Honor. So I would say I don't think Jerry typically gives those kinds of awards out to the guys in the trenches.
Well, let me see if I can persuade Jerry Jones a little bit more. Martin was a 9-time Pro Bowl selector in 11 seasons with the Cowboys. Only Hall of Famers Bob Lilly, Larry Allen, Mel Renfro, and Jason Witten have been named to more. I mean, that's a real good list right there.
I'm really surprised Witten hasn't made his way into that Ring of Honor because he had a long career with the Cowboys and a good career.
Long and productive.
Oh yeah, very productive. Let me see. I was looking up some real quick. Players in Cal. Let's see who all we got in that Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
I know. What his name? The wide receiver. Okay, so Cowboys Ring of Honor. They do have. I take that back. They have Larry Allen. That's offensive lineman. So Larry Allen did make it.
Actually.
Charles Haley, Randy White, Tom Landry, Tony Dorsett, Mel Renfro, Michael Irving. That's what I was thinking of. Rayford Wright. He's another offensive lineman. So that's 2 offensive linemen. Bob Hayes, Bob Lilly, Emmett Smith, Tex Scram, Leroy Jordan, Chuck Howley, Cliff Harris, Don Meredith, Don Perkins, Drew Pearson, Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman, Darren Woodson, Gil Brandt, Roger Staubach, and last but not least, Deion Sanders. I don't know, like Deion.
And a partridge in a pear tree. I mean, my God. I mean, anyone else you want to add in there, Jay?
Jeez.
I'm
going to be honest with you. I don't know if I'd let Deion in the Ring of Honor. I know he got a Super Bowl with them, but he really wasn't part of the Cowboys organization for very long. It was only a couple of years and he was gone.
I mean, when you think of Deion,
I don't know how you put him in that Ring of Honor, unless you're just doing it by name recognition only.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, because Deion played for a lot of teams. It's not like he played for one. I mean, he played in Atlanta for a good bit here in his prime, I would say, prime time. He played where else? In San Francisco, I know. He played obviously in Dallas. Then he played for Baltimore for a minute, like late in his career, I believe.
Yeah, he also played for the Commanders.
Oh yeah, he did play for Washington. Yeah. Who else? He played. Yeah, so he started off in Atlanta from 89 to 93. Then he went to San Francisco for just one season in 94.
Yeah.
Played in Dallas from 95 to 99. Played in Washington for a season. Then he took 4 years off, and then he played for Baltimore in 04 and 05. So, I mean, he played for 5 teams, but that's tough, though, man, to give someone – and look, obviously, we're not saying – obviously, he's a Hall of Famer. There's no question about that. Love Deion. Yeah. But he played for only 4 seasons, though, Jay. from 95 to 99, he still gets up there. I feel like if I'm Zach Martin and if I'm Jason Witten, I need to be up there too
Oh,
for what
absolutely.
I've done for the organization.
The Cowboys, and all that time, yeah, they definitely deserve to be in that Ring of Honor. There's no doubt about it.
Because obviously Martin is a lifer, right? He spent his whole career there when he easily could have left.
Yeah, easily could have left.
Yeah, and I mean, and with Jason Witten, he played there primarily his whole career. But I mean, he played what 2003 to 2017, had a stint in 19 as well, and he played for the Raiders. Jack, kind of forgot about that for one season in 20.
I remember him playing for the Raiders.
Yeah, that was in their inaugural season in 20. But I mean, yeah, definitely, I think both of those dudes, Witten as well as Martin, deserve to get their names up there. Now, here's the real question.
I guarantee at some point Martin's going to make it into the Hall of Fame. He's going.
I think Martin is for sure a Hall of Famer. There's no question about that. But we're just talking about the Cowboys and their Ring of Honor, right? But here's the question I got for you, Jay, because we know Jerry Jones was infatuated with this man. A lot of Dallas wasn't. What about Tony Romo? Does Tony Romo get up there with all those great names?
Jeez.
Because of all the names you mentioned, there was not a whole lot of quarterbacks mentioned.
I feel like if Romo was going to make it in, he'd already made it in by now. He's been out for a long period of time. I feel like if he was going to go in, he would have gone in by now. I don't think Jerry's going to put him in. I really don't.
No, I think maybe the ship has sailed on that because, like I said, it's been probably almost 10 years now coming up on it.
Think about it like this. The only two quarterbacks that are in the Ring of Honor have Super Bowl win trophies.
Right, and that's Aikman and
Staubach.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean they're the only ones. They're the only ones that are in there, and they all have Super Bowl trophies. Romo didn't get it.
And Romo, he didn't get into the Super Bowl. Did he even get into a championship game? No, he didn't get into a championship. He didn't get into a championship game. So
nothing. He was just a generic one and done in the playoffs kind of guy.
And I feel like a lot more of that weight is put on quarterbacks than other skill positions, right? Other than receiver, other than defensive players. Because you are the primary, you get the ball more than anyone else, right? You're the first, other than the center, you touch the ball more than anyone else.
Right. No, I mean it's not the ring of longevity. It should be the ring of accomplishments for that team. And really, Romo cost them a lot. I mean, there was one we should have gone to we should have gotten into the NFC title game, but Romo bumbles the field goal attempt.
Yeah.
And I think tries to run it, doesn't get in, and they ultimately lose the game. So, I mean, that guy's cost them more chances than he's given them.
Yeah, but I mean, just going back to, I think that I think hell, we just named two more people that need to have their name put in that Ring of Honor: Jason Witten and Zach Martin. I think that end of the day or eventually they're all going to be there. And I think Witten, his first year for the Hall of Fame is coming up too. I think, or it was this past year. Sorry, this past year. It's going to be next year because he retired in 20. So
he's definitely going to get in. I mean, he's definitely a shoe in to get it. He won't. I mean, he won't. He might not be a first time balloter.
It might take him a couple of years to be honest. But I think that over time that he'll get in because I mean, well that's that's kind of the tough part because I mean, Antonio Gates just got put in right, and that was in the exact same era,
right. And he had about as much of an impact on that team as Witten did on the Cowboys. I mean, Witten might have had a little bit more because they really liked back when Witten played. They really liked to go to the tight end a lot, and he really got a lot of clutch first downs for Dallas. And I remember specifically.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I definitely think Witten gets in. Maybe take him one or two tries, but I think
it might. Yeah, I think it'll take him a little bit, but I think eventually he'll get in. All right. Well. Let's Jay. Let's go over to the Diamond, Jay, because spring training it's here. Spring training is underway. Jay, baseball is coming back. It's coming back. We're not full force yet, right? We're still just kind of in the weeds. Also, we're going to be getting our fantasy baseball league started up here soon. We'll have a more formal announcement on that next week once we get everything dotted and figured out. But Jay, before we get on to actual on the field, or what happened on the field and everything. the New York Yankees, Jay, made an interesting decision today.
Yeah.
They have gotten rid of their facial hair policy because for pretty much it felt like the entirety of their existence, you
Right.
couldn't have long hair, you couldn't have a beard. Now, they are still going to have a quote well groomed beard, but you can grow it out a little bit. I applaud them. It's about damn time.
It's interesting to me. I mean, this is a Hal Steinbrenner move for sure. I mean, I think
Yeah,
George, if George knew what Hal
George
was
is rolling
doing,
over now. I think.
I think him and every owner before him is probably rolling over in their graves right now.
Yeah.
Seeing what Hal has done, letting them have. I mean, this is an organization that doesn't do a lot of change. I mean, literally, look at the uniform. The uniform ain't changed for nothing. The only thing that's
Nope.
changed in that uniform is maybe the material that the uniform is made out of. But whether that material is wool or moisture wicking or whatever, it's still the same basic uniform they've had since day one. So this is not a team that does change a whole lot, literally.
No.
Like they could have, even when they built the new stadium for them to play in, it still kind of looks like the old stadium. You know, there's no retractable roof. There's no
It's
still
Jay.
very.
It's still just named Yankee Stadium.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it's very clean cut here. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, Jay, we were 1 year away from hitting 50 in terms of how long that policy's been in place for. Started in
Yeah.
the spring training of 1976, and it ended this morning.
Yeah. But I don't even know if Yankees had beards before the 70s. I don't know if too many Yankees had beards.
I mean, whenever you don't think of a lot of them with them, right? I mean, you look at like DiMaggio, you look at Ruth, you look at Gehrig. I mean, those main three. Look at all the great pitchers
Even
they
Mickey
had.
Mantle was clean shaven.
I mean, a lot of them are. And I mean, obviously, anyone after 1976 did. So, I mean, but I will say it's going to be nice. I know a lot of the guys are looking forward. I know Garrett Cole's probably happy he can grow his hair back out a little bit at least, and get his beard back. Devin Williams, I know, is happy he can get his facial hair back. So, I know a lot of guys are going to be happy with that. So,
I wonder
if
if the Yankees are growing this facial hair because they figure, hey, look, we've been losing forever with the hair. Let's just grow some hair and see if it changes the outcome.
I mean, hey, I mean, honestly, Jay, you say that, but I mean, I was just talking to a coworker today who's a Red Sox fan, and I told him about the news, and he reminded me that I believe it was back in 2013 when they had won the World Series. Remember, that was when they grew out the beard like your own, the longer beard, the kind of more unkept, just kind of let it fly, and that was kind of their, I don't know, their war cry, you could say, their rally behind that. So I don't know, maybe if guys don't have to worry about cutting themselves on the fence, shaving before the game. It's just one less thing they have to do. I don't know, might lock them in a little bit more. I don't know.
I mean, I remember when Nestor Cortez had a good season when he first came into the league. He's the one that brought back the single mustache, and then everybody else started doing it. I mean, So you gotta. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, and of course now Nestor he's not even with the Yankees anymore. I think he's down there with.
No, he's with I believe. Yeah, he's with Milwaukee, I believe.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know how long the quote unquote stash lasted for him. So I guess maybe there's a short window and this hair growth thing that might get them where they gotta go. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, I'm just glad that they finally got rid of that archaic rule. For God's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone, and I mean, it's been going on. It was, I think it was Verdugo who kind of started off earlier in the year, where he was like, "Oh, now that I left the Yankees, I can grow my beard out." And look, Verdugo, I think, is one of those guys that needs to have a beard to look good. He looked like he was 16 on the. He looks so young.
Oh, yeah. No, he needs to have a beard just to give him a little bit of age.
I mean, remember in Boston, he had the goatee with the chains out and everything.
I do. Yeah, I did.
And he looked good with it, but didn't look great in the pinstripes, that's for sure.
Real quick, off topic. I mean,
go ahead.
Curious. Like, and I talked about this yesterday with Gonzo and them, but I'm curious to get your opinion. Devers, there's a $300 million man over there in Boston.
Correct.
And obviously he has made it quite clear that he has no intentions of moving off of third base, that is his position, and bar none.
Yep.
Now Gonzo made a good point that maybe they could switch off, Bregman and not Bregman, but have Verdugo. I'm not Verdugo. Having Devers play DH and then switch in and play third base and give Bregman a break from that. But you got to think, you only brought Bregman in for his defensive abilities. You're sure as hell not bringing him in for his postseason batting average. You know what I'm saying? You're bringing him in because he's a great defensive presence on third base. And my thing is, if that's the case, and Verdugo is not good at the defensive front at third base.
Devers.
I'm just wondering, number one, why would you give Bregman $40 million, well overpaid, with 2 opt-outs, and then only to put him at second base where he's never even played before in baseball? Now, I'm sure he says he can do it, whatever, but would he be that same defensive force at a brand new position versus a position that he's played almost his entire career? I just think that just doesn't make sense. So who do you piss off? Now, Bregman said that he would do whatever for the team and play whatever position, and that's fine. Yeah. But do you really want to put a person you brought in for third base defense on second base? To me, it just doesn't make sense.
I mean, and the interesting thing is, and I mentioned it earlier, is Bregman played shortstop in college. Like I said, in shortstop and second base, I know they have some differences, but it's not like he is completely inexperienced when it comes to middle infield defense, right? Because, I mean, the only difference for the most part is you're on the different side of the diamond of second base in terms of fielding, in terms of throwing, so on and so forth. You don't have to make nearly as many long throws and everything like that if you're a second. But the thing is that you just paid him all this money. Now, it does have 2 opt-outs, obviously, so he can leave whenever.
Year 1. He can leave right after the first year.
If the team sucks, if they, flounder and they're a bottom feeder team in the East, he can leave and wipe your hands clean. All right, we're out of here. Right. But if they do good, then, that's a different story. The thing, though, that really caused the rift in this, though, Jay, is Devers came out and said that pretty much felt like immediately after Bregman was signed. That's, I think, what the bigger issue is. It's not Bregman and his hitting, his struggles in the postseason. It's the fact that your, hopeful face of the franchise, young talent in Rafael Devers said, "This is my spot. I'm not leaving it." Does it create any sort of friction between them early on?
Right. I don't understand. I don't know what Boston's doing with their management. Number one, I think it's a bad contract for Bregman all the way around. Number one, you're overpaying. Number two, you're only really securing him for 1 year, so he can beat feet and leave you at the drop of a hat. I just don't like that contract for that they gave him in terms of the value they're going to get back from. Because look, I'll be honest with you. I don't see Boston competing. I think they'll get in the playoffs. Possibly get in the playoffs, but I don't think they're anywhere near World Series bound. And so you're giving all this money out to a guy that's middle 30s that has 2 opt-outs. I don't know. I just don't like what they're doing over there in Boston. I don't think it's going to be long-term beneficial for them.
I think the thing too is that they've had to kind of overpay to get these players too, because a lot of them are going obviously to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And it feels like they are still, in a sense, sort of the, second option, even in the AL East. Because, a lot of people do want to go to the Yankees because they do have, on paper, a good team. So I feel like if you're Boston, you do kind of have to overpay for these guys to entice them to come play for your ball club.
Right.
It's not, you know what I mean? Like we could easily say that about a bunch of other clubs, but hell, you gotta have these players anyways to be competitive, and if they win, you don't realize how much money they're making if they're winning. Well,
that's a good point. The good thing that came out of that for Houston is they got that young infielder, and I think it was Cam Smith, I believe his name was, that they said supposed to be a good prospect, a good high value prospect. We'll see. Houston's been needing to stock up their farm system for a while now because they got rid of a lot of their farm system in those trades. So they do need to build their farm system back up. So, we'll see where that translates. I think Houston is still competitive for the World Series title, but, there's a lot of other teams out there that are very competitive as well. And Houston's going to have their hands full in the American League side of it, I still believe. I don't know that they really got better on the American League side.
Look. I mean, we'll do a bigger breakdown. Maybe next week or something once we
Yeah.
get closer to the regular season. But I mean, just a quick look at it. I think that for your division, Jay, in the AL West, I mean, Texas. Texas is tough because Texas, a lot of their guys were hurt last year.
Yeah.
So
And
it was hard to
Scherzer's
kind of
not
gauge
there
that.
anymore either. In fact,
Yeah.
Scherzer left.
Yep. But a lot of their younger talent was hurt.
Mhm.
So I mean, I will see how they bounce back from that. I mean, the Mariners, you know what I mean? You don't really know what kind of season they're going to have. They could either be somewhat competitive or they could be a bottom of the barrel team. We don't know. It's always a mystery with them. I will say that, honestly, Jay, I think I'm crazy. I think Oakland or the Athletics are going to perform better than the Angels again this year.
Yeah.
And I say that only because
Oakland's got some pieces down there that they're starting to work with.
Yeah, I mean, they got some young players. And they've also signed a couple of guys. They never sign players. So it shows they're actually trying. And God, for the Angels, I feel bad for our boy Cody. That's his team, the Angels. I mean, what do you got? What Mike Trout, who's moved to right field to hope to not get injured. You got Nolan Shanwell, I believe, who's one of your young, talents. But I mean, Jay, who pitching wise, who do you have? I watched it. I'd seen a video the other night talking about the Angels, and back in I believe it was 2021, they had in their draft they drafted like 21 pitchers. That's all they drafted was pitchers, and I think maybe only like 2 of them have even made it to the big leagues. Like, when you just talk about bad luck, good lord, that is like the
You're right.
I mean, I'm trying to even think who their like top pitcher is. Like,
after Shohei Ohtani left, I don't know who. I haven't really been paying much of any attention at all to the Angels, to be honest with you.
yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell.
Stop paying attention to those guys.
Yeah, I mean, you have, I mean, it's going to be a bunch of younger guys you don't really know because, I mean, it's a lot of guys who I think they've drafted or picked up in trades or. I'm looking here, Jay, and stop me if you heard any of these gentlemen. Okay, we've got Reed Detmers, Yusei Chase Silseth, Jose Suarez, Tyler Anderson, I remember Kyle Hendricks. They signed him. I remember he was with the Cubs a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but you're basically talking about a lot of bottom feeder pitchers.
I'm not hearing any stars immediately.
No, not at all.
So I mean, it's going to be tough. But like I said, we'll do a more of an in-depth dive on a bunch of teams probably next week or so. Just as the baseball season finally ramps.
We are getting ready to ramp up, so it's about that time to start looking at some deep dives into those teams.
Mm-hmm.
I agree for sure.
But we're going to keep it on the diamond.
I think Dodgers, obviously, they got the most pressure to be successful with all the money and all the star power that they brought in.
Yeah,
those guys have a lot of pressure. They almost have to win the World Series to justify all of what they've done. Otherwise, they just look like the biggest tool shed.
No, I mean you gotta produce, or else it ain't gonna work. All right, we'll keep it with some baseball, Jay, and then we'll move on to our final topic here, I believe. But also in baseball, it's a new trivia question for your local sports bar here in the next couple of years. Cubs pitcher Cody Petit and Los Angeles Dodgers third baseman Max Muncy, they made history, Jay, by becoming the first duo to enact the automated ball strike challenge system in spring training the other day. So that is, it's now happened.
Yeah, I like it. Because I can't tell you how many times me, you, Frankie have watched our teams and be like, bruh, that was not a ball, or bruh, that was not a strike. Like, how many times have we done that? Oh, I could just think of millions of times that me and Frankie have done it, countless number of times. And so Jay, I like it. Now, it may slow down the game a little bit, but you know what? I don't care. I'd rather slow down the game and get it right than speed it up and get it wrong.
And also, too, baseball's done such a good job over the last couple of seasons with the pitch clock, right?
Right.
That it has made games go by a lot quicker. I mean, this isn't going to add 20 minutes, or you know what I mean? Like, this is going to happen a couple times during the game, obviously, but you're not gonna, and also too, you're not gonna see guys getting ejected nearly much at all. I mean, because what you can't. I mean, what about you can't really argue balls and strikes when you have this system now.
And that's not even just the players. Then you got to figure how many coaches are not going to be getting pissed off because of strike zones being more held in check, right?
I'm curious to see who the first manager is going to be to say, "Oh, this is rigged," or man, the technology is being used against us, because it's going to happen.
Yeah,
it's going to happen. But yeah, you're not going to see nearly as many managerial ejections as years back. You're not going to get a Bobby Cox, Jay. That ain't going to happen.
No. Bobby Cox was known to go out there.
No.
He had some famous arguments. Him and Ron Washington, I remember having some
arguments.
Bobby Valentine having some arguments.
And Washington's still doing his thing in Los Angeles, surprisingly enough. So I mean, he's.
But no, I'm really curious to see when we will actually get these electronic strike zones that are getting called. Instead of having the ump call the strikes and balls, let the computer call it, because then I think we're going to get more of a consistent and fair strike zone for both pitchers on both teams. You know what I mean? You really can't argue a computer, because the computer has, they versus the human eye, or quote unquote human eye.
I think that I'm all for it. We've mentioned it here before, but so it says here, if there are no hiccups this spring, the MLB may adapt it as early as next season for both regular season and for postseason, which makes sense, right? They're going to test it out there in the spring training. I don't know if it's going to go in the minor leagues. I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, I mean, if there's any flaws in it, you work it out now when the games don't matter, and you bring it on fully next season. I'm all for it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely all for it. I think it's good for baseball. Then you can't say, well, we lost it because a few calls weren't called or balls weren't called right. No,
you don't have that
excuse out of it and put it back, in the players' hands in terms of replaying balls or strikes that they feel weren't. And then in all honesty, if I'm an umpire, it really takes a lot of that out of the game for me too, because then I have to deal with these managers coming and yelling and cursing or whatever else at me. So I think it makes their life easier too, because you're still going to have an umpire that's behind there. So
yeah,
I mean,
you're still going to have that human element.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people say though that they don't like losing the human element, but no, I'm good with it, because the human element for me sucks. I have lost too many outs to balls that weren't called right. But I shouldn't. But I'm not going to bitch too hard about that, because there have been calls that I knew were bad, but I'm like, you know what? He called the strike, so he got me out of an inning. Okay, whatever. So, I mean, I've been on both sides of the angry side of it, and I got one in our favor finally. No, so.
and I'm glad that baseball is doing this approach with the more kind of in-depth technology, as opposed to what the NFL does. It needs to change their replay system. She needs to change their first down mark. Jay, they're still using chains, for God's sake. Those have been proven to be very inaccurate.
They should just put the chains on the sideline for when the computer has, like, if the computer goes down or has a glitch or whatever. Well, then you got to change to a manual management. So I mean, I don't think they'd ever go away, but it would be your primary means of determining first down either, or ball placement is another thing.
No, I mean, because that's a big issue. No, I mean, that's a huge issue of football, man. I mean, me and you have watched thousands of games since we've been together on this network, and thousands of football games, and we'll say, how the hell is that not a first down? I can see the ball is clearly past the chains, or it's not a first down, but they call it a first down, which there's that human element.
I think the Josh Allen episode was the biggest thing about, clearly he got a first down, but they didn't call it. Like, come on.
I mean, and there's been hundreds of others. That's just the more recent example, obviously. Right. So that's a huge issue with that. But I said earlier this month that I'm glad that baseball is doing this, because what they do in tennis, Jay, is what baseball is doing for the balls and strikes, is they have some like digitally enhanced thing that they use that can tell you precisely where the ball is at. And for tennis, it's whether it goes inside the line, it touches the line, it's outside the line.
Right.
Why can't you do that with football? With football, Jay, I feel like it's even more like in a sense, maybe smaller than that because you can even just use like the tip of the football. You know what I mean? Like just anything like that.
Yeah.
Why the
No, I agree.
NFL is kind of, I don't get why they're still, in a sense, kind of so archaic. And yeah, I get they have the review system, but hell, Jay, I still can't tell you what a catch is in this league. I mean, can you tell me I'm wrong on that? I mean, hell,
No,
I mean,
man. How many times we see the catch? I'm like, that's a catch. And then, no, he bobbled it or he did this or he did that. And there's
yeah.
no catch. And I'm like, come on.
Well,
Man.
if he cuffed the ball at a 45-degree angle and it moved
Come
slightly
on.
on his chin, yeah, come on. NFL, you got to do better. You got to do better than that.
They definitely get, I think, a little ticky tacky with that. You know?
1,000%. But we'll talk about football and we'll talk about the world game of football. Soccer news, Jay. I know we don't talk a whole lot about soccer.
Oh yeah.
But this is interesting. We talk about some umpires, talk about some referees. There's a referee, Jay, who's in a little bit of hot water. CONCACAF, they have disciplined referee Marco Antonio Ortiz Nava for requesting Lionel Messi's autograph after Inter Miami CF's CONCACAF Champions Cup win over Sporting Kansas City on Wednesday night. After the final whistle, the referee approached Messi and sought to ask for his jersey as a memento for the match, although it was later clarified that he actually requested an autograph for a family member with special needs. The actions went against the code of conduct for officials. Yeah. For me, Jay, it's a time and a place. It's a time and a place.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what he could have easily done, Jay? The referee could have went over to the equipment manager. Could have went over to any of the hundreds of people over on the sidelines and said, "Hey, do you mind asking after the match for his autograph or whatever? I would love to have that as a memento for my son, or for my family member rather." I feel like there's no issue with that. But when you do it, especially right after you blow the final whistle, and you go and talk to this guy and say, "Hey man, hey, can you give me an autograph?" It's not a good look.
I don't like it. Period. If you're asking for jerseys, if you're getting anything from players, that should just be a no-go all the way around. I don't care if it's
as a referee,
because you know what, and it's not. And
you influence the game.
Sure that it's an innocent thing. He's a fan, but it still sets a tone or a perception.
And look,
that maybe they could have been favored a little bit.
And you would hope that this is in good spirit and everything, and certainly you would wish for that. But like you said, Jay, at the end of the day, this is still an official. This is still someone who referees a match, who can decide a win or loss, which has thousands of other results by the way of that. Someone gets fired, someone gets hired. If someone makes X amount of dollars, there's a million other consequences. And if you get an autograph or if you get a jersey or whatever from any player, and unless this referee is retiring, you know what I mean? Unless it's like, "Hey, it's my final match, man. Can I get a jersey? Can I get an autograph?" Hey, you're done. You know what I mean? You're done for. But now I don't know if this guy's ever gonna referee. I know he's probably not gonna referee any other Messi games, or if he's gonna even referee any other games.
Right.
I mean, that's just a big risk.
They never did say what his quote unquote punishment was gonna be.
No, it's just he's been disciplined. There is no official, ban or anything.
I just feel like, anytime you put yourself in a position to be questioned about your ethics or morals in terms of calling games, it's never a good look, right? I mean, it's just not. I think that's just something. Look, if you take this job, that should be one of the rules. It should be in your contract. Look, you understand that there is no connection with you and the players. No jersey swaps, no autographs, no nothing. I mean, look, this is the qualifications for this position. If you can't fulfill these qualifications, or if your fandom will prevent you from, following this, then you can't have this job. I mean, it just has to be that way. It's no different than that major league umpire that was kicked out of baseball, which he should have been, because he has a gambling account linked, and somebody else was using that account to bet on baseball. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, it says here, and I'm reading an article from where it says en.as.com, which it just says basically professional referees are strictly prohibited from engaging in such interactions with players, coaches, or anyone affiliated with a club while wearing their official uniform.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I would hope he knew this, and I don't know if he just, had brain fog or what the hell it was, or like you said, I don't know, but should have happened. You could have asked your buddy or someone. I don't know. There's 1,000 other ways to go about that, and unfortunately, he just chose this route.
I'm sorry, but you know what? You gotta believe. It would be very hard pressed for me to believe that he didn't know, because you got to imagine when you get a job as a referee, that's a very big no. And you got to imagine that's one of those things that they get probably hammered in their skulls 24/7. Don't flirt with the player. No interaction, no inappropriate interaction with the player.
Yeah.
You got to think that that's always talked about because of this kind of conduct, right? I can't imagine that just being like a one-time, okay, let me give you this disclosure and then we won't talk about it again. No, you can imagine that thing is talked about all the time. No fraternization with the players. You are here to call a game and keep it at, you got to imagine that that's a strict discipline in their organization. With all the training that they say that they go through, you got to imagine that training includes that.
I'm sure it does, but fortunately for this ref, he made a bad call here, and we don't know his disciplinary reaction, so we don't know what's going to come out of this. So we'll just kind of see as it progresses and if it does come out. But well, Jay, that'll put a wrap on today's show. We've went through all of our topics that we know of, and that'll do it here for this Friday. Any other final thoughts you have before we get out of here tonight?
The only final thought I have is Kellen Moore, man. I'm looking at this coaching staff in your building, and you brought in Staley for the Chargers, and now you're bringing in Nussmeier, I think it's going to be your offensive coordinator. I got to tell you, I don't know if I like this coaching staff he's putting together over there with the Saints. So I'm already seeing, to me, looks like some red flags to me. So we'll see how it pans out as the season goes along and whatnot. But I don't like the people he's hiring for coordinators. And it may just be, honestly, Logan, that there was nobody else available. I don't know.
Could be. No, it could be, man. It's all interesting because obviously nothing's happened on the field yet, so we don't know how it's going to roll. But we'll see all in all how Kellen Moore decides to build that team with their seemingly no cap space left. It's a challenge, and we talked about it on the show earlier. But man, it ain't gonna be easy out there in New Orleans. If he can turn this team around, Jay, and make them competitive again, then hey, hats off to him. Because they have really dug themselves a deep, deep hole out there in New Orleans.
Yeah, Kellen Moore is going to have his hands full for a long period. And my only concern is I wonder how long New Orleans rides with him and how much time they give him to resurrect this team, because it's not going to be a quick transition. This is going to take a lot of finesse and a lot of time and multiple seasons to get back to being a competitive football team, in my opinion.
No, and that's the thing too, is that you have to give these guys, especially first-time head coaches like Kellen, you have to give them a longer leash because they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? He's never been a head coach before. He doesn't know how the ins and outs, the ebbs and flows of an NFL coaching job is. So yeah, you got to give him a longer leash. You can't have this, one and done culture we've seen. Hell, look at Chicago. I'm not, they've been rattling through coordinators and coaches like there's no tomorrow. And it's affected their quarterback play for centuries. It feels like.
Right.
Damn. So you gotta give him some tenure here. Gotta give him some leeway. So we'll see what happens all in all with the Saints team and everything. But guys, that'll do it for our show today. We appreciate each and every one of you for checking us out here live, of course, on the afternoon show. We go live Monday through Friday, 2:00 Eastern, here on the Elite Sports and Entertainment Network, on our Facebook channel, on our YouTube channel, on our Twitch as well. And also, if you want to check out the rest of our shows or any of our other networks shows, such as Truth Be Told Sports Podcast, Royally Quack, we also have some gaming content and a bunch of other ones, Original Sports Podcast with Mark Meriday and company, just Geek Gauntlet. The list goes on and on. We've got a lot of niche topics that talk about certain sports. We've also just got generalized sports shows. Like I said, we've got some gaming stuff down the pipeline going on right now, as well as in the future. So we've got a nice little smorgasbord, Jay, of just content each and every single day. We're pumping out stuff every day, every couple of hours. You're getting new stuff from all the fresh faces you see here on the channel. for all of our hardworking crew and our talent. We appreciate just all the work they put in. We don't say it enough, but we appreciate that and all the commitment they have to us. And of course, me, Jay, Chris, Tony, Frankie, and everyone else who joins us on the afternoon show. Mike Hughes coming on in, Big Glenn, and everyone else who's been a part of it. Man, we appreciate all the continued support. We've got a lot coming up here. Hey, Jay, baseball season started. Once baseball gets started, man, we get things turned up a little bit more because that's the only sport in town for a minute. So, and we're all of us here, especially on the afternoon show. We're huge baseball fans. I got the Braves. Jay, you've got the Astros. Tony and Chris are representing out there in the Central with the Cincinnati Reds, and of course Frankie with the Yankees. But hey, you can't win them all. And I know Frankie knows about not winning them all. Jay, I'm just saying he's won the most. He's won the most. I can't deny that, but he hasn't won one in the last 2 decades. So it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
It warms my heart that he hasn't won in 15 years, and I just let him know how much more the brace. And I'm a Cowboys fan, 30 years in, haven't won nothing. So now I want him to get a little taste of that medicine, so he can start hating Hal Steinbrenner as much as I hate Jerry Jones.
Hey, he rags on you during football season because he's a Patriots fan and he got all those championships, and the Cowboys ain't got one in this long, but. Now we flip it over to baseball, and now we've got the upper hand on it. Hey, I will say though.
Hey, listen, come on.
But I will say though, at least all of us, all three of us, me, you, and Frankie, we can all at least gloat and laugh in Chris and Tony's face with the Reds. We've got that on. We've got that on.
Man, them guys. Every sport, right? The Colts have won sooner than
one
I have. So I guess he's got that on me, but.
Just specifically baseball. Yeah. So I think specifically baseball. What last time they got one was in 1990, I believe.
I think that's about right. And I don't even know when the last time have the Pacers ever won the NBA title. I don't think they have.
The who?
The Pacers.
The Pacers? No, not to my knowledge.
The NBA title.
Not to my knowledge. Also, yeah, the Reds last won their World Series in 1990. I wasn't even born then. I don't even know if Frankie was alive then. I think Tony still had the long flowing locks. Jay was also doing something weird in the 90s too. About just being something being near a bar and everything. I don't know the rest of it. It's a little hazy.
I do think Gonzo was born during that time period. So Gonzo might have a slight recollection of the World Series.
I think Gonzo was selling cigarettes in the parking lot of his high school maybe at that point, but
you know what? Gonzo looks like the kind of guy that would sell cigarettes in the parking lot. Gonzo strikes me as the kind of guy that when I go to the gas station back in the 40s and 50s, and you go across the line and goes, ding, ding, ding. He's the guy that comes up and says, would you like full service or
just yeah. Of course, we're just making fun of them. We're just having fun here. Nothing serious.
Chris, man, you know better.
Yeah, we know better. We all know better. All love here on the channel. Once again, for Jay McLovin, I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Guys, enjoy your weekends. Be safe out there. And once again, we will see you on Monday at 2 o'clock for the afternoon show. Check out all the top tier A+ content we have coming your way this weekend. Until next time.